Have you ever shared a URL on Facebook and the image is incorrect or just missing altogether? In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix that. So here we have an article that we've written about when your Facebook share image is not showing up or it's incorrect. And I've shared it to Facebook, but we have the wrong image showing up on Facebook. And so that's what I want to show you how to fix when this happens. So the reason it happens is because Facebook is using what is called Open Graph tags to know what to display here when you share it on Facebook. And it can include things like the image, the title, a description. It can include other information as well. But what we're concerned with right now is getting the correct image to show up. So one way that we can test and see what Facebook has on file for our Open Graph tags is to go to what we call the Facebook Debugger. And the URL is developers.facebook.com/tools/debug. There's a link in the description and as well as in the article. And what you do is just put in the URL and then click the debug button. And Facebook is going to show us what it has pulled for this URL. So once it pulls it one time, it's going to cache that information and store it and basically remember it. So it can be frustrating when you're trying to make changes on a blog post or an article, make changes to the image, but Facebook just keeps remembering this old image. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you have updated your Open Graph image on your article. There are different ways to do that. In WordPress, a lot of times you use an SEO plugin like Yoast SEO or All-in-One SEO, and sometimes people have a dedicated plugin for setting Open Graph tags. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. I can show you real quick here in Yoast. If you're using Yoast SEO, you would go down to the section and go to this tab that says social, and then there is a place here that has the social image. So we're going to replace that image, and we want to use this new image that we just created. So I'm going to select that and then update my post. And once it's updated, and you always want to make sure when you're doing this kind of update that if you have any kind of caching on your site, you want to make sure that the cache clears for this page. A lot of times it's set up to automatically clear, but you may find that when we go to test this again, if you keep having the wrong image show up, like Facebook is not discovering the new image, part of the problem might be that you need to clear the cache on that post so that the newest information is published to the web. So just a side note there about that. So if we come back to the debugger right now and we can click debug, it's going to have the same information as before, but we can clear it out and kind of force Facebook to scrape, is what they call it, scrape the site to get the newest information. So all you need to do is click the scrape again button, and it will go and pull the latest version of the Open Graph information that it needs to know how to share it. So that's great going forward. Every time this URL gets shared to Facebook, it's going to have this new information. But in this case, I also want to fix this post that's up with the wrong image. And you can do that by going to these three dots on the post and then click refresh share attachment and then click save. And it should eventually update that for you and change that to be the newest information. I find it doesn't always do it right away, but if you just refresh the browser page, it should be there. It should be showing you the new information. So that's how you fix that problem when you run into it. Now, if you don't know if you have Open Graph tags set, a lot of times, like you may run into an issue where there's no image, and you might go to the Facebook debugger, and when you debug, you get a bunch of errors that look like this, where it's basically saying you haven't set any of this stuff. So in those cases, you want to make sure that you are, verifying that your Open Graph tags are set. One way that you can do that manually is to, when you're on the page, if you right click, and this works in most browsers, and you want to right click and click on view page source, or it might say show page source, something like that. When you do that, it's going to show you the HTML code for your page. You can look and see, if you Control F and search for OG, which stands for Open Graph, or OG colon, you can see it will highlight all of the Open Graph tags that you have going on. And you want to look and see if you have any. Because if you don't, then you need to get them onto your site using some sort of a plugin, if it's WordPress, or manually, if it's depending on how your website is built, you're going to have a method by which you can add these Open Graph tags. We deal mostly with WordPress, so for WordPress users, it's generally going to be through your SEO plugin, like if it's a Yoast SEO or an all-in-one SEO or some other dedicated plugin, and we'll list some of those in the article and in the comments. You can also, on the sharing debugger, it will show you, if you click on see what our scraper sees for your URL, it basically gives you the version of the HTML that Facebook is using. So it's probably the same information. Sometimes, if you're, as I mentioned before, like if the version that Facebook is seeing is different than what you're seeing when you do this view source, sometimes that's due to some sort of caching on your website. It could be, server caching. There are lots of different types of server caching going on, or that can be going on. So you want to investigate, why Facebook would be seeing something different than what you're seeing. It could possibly be due to a caching issue. So you need to make sure you can get your cache cleared so that the most up-to-date information, Open Graph information, is out there for Facebook to get. So that's it. Hope that helps.